In the year 1972, there was a burglary that would unravel a presidency. On a humid June night, June 17th, 5 men were caught inside the Democratic National Committee headquarters at the Watergate complex in Washington, D.C. They weren't petty thieves. They carried tape recorders, lockpicks, and duct tape. They were intended to wiretap phones and photograph campaign files. At first, it was treated like a local break-in, but the fingerprints, paychecks, and a trail of silent phone calls led outward to a political machine, to the committee to re-elect the president, and ultimately into the Oval Office. To understand the conspiracy, you have to see the era. 1972, a nation split by Vietnam and protests. A White House convinced enemies were everywhere. Nixon's re-election apparatus had created a covert plumbers unit, former CIA men and ex-operatives, tasked with stopping leaks and gathering intelligence. The men arrested that night, Bernard Barker, Virgilio Gonzalez, Eugenio Martinez, James McCord, and Frank Sturgis, had links to covert operations. 2 of the planners were E. Howard Hunt and G. Gordon Liddy. The theft was not a rogue act. Money from the committee to re-elect the president paid legal fees and hush money. The burglary was one small thread in a larger design, a coordinated campaign of espionage, sabotage, and when exposed, a coordinated cover-up. Reporters Bob Woodward and Carl Bernstein of The Washington Post began to follow the loose ends. Their anonymous source, known only as Deep Throat, hinted that the paper trail ran to the highest levels of power. Meanwhile, the arrested burglar James McCord, a former CIA officer and security coordinator for the re-election committee, shocked the system. He wrote a letter to the judge alleging perjury and pressure to lie. That admission cracked open the official narrative and forced a federal inquiry. The conspiracy deepened not simply in the break-in, but in the responses that followed. White House aides arranged hush payments, directed campaign funds to pay burglars' attorneys, and sought to obstruct FBI and Justice Department investigations. Senior officials, Attorney General John Mitchell, White House Chief of Staff H.R. Haldeman, and Domestic Advisor John Ehrlichman, were implicated in planning and executing a campaign of cover-ups. John Dean, White House counsel, later testified that President Nixon himself was involved in attempts to conceal the truth. The pivotal revelation came in July 1973, when Alexander Butterfield, a White House aide, told the Senate Watergate committee that Nixon had a secret recording system in the Oval Office. Those tapes would be the smoking gun. For months, the White House resisted subpoenas. Then came the Saturday Night Massacre in October 1973. Nixon ordered the firing of Special Prosecutor Archibald Cox. The Attorney General and Deputy resigned rather than comply. Public outrage swelled. A constitutional crisis followed. The battle over the tapes moved to the Supreme Court, and on July 24, 1974, in United States v. Nixon, the court unanimously ruled that Nixon must surrender tape recordings and documents. On one tape, later called the smoking gun tape, Nixon can be heard directing a plan to obstruct the FBI's investigation. Another tape contained an inexplicable 18.5-minute gap, an erasure tied to Nixon's personal secretary, an anomaly that only compounded suspicion. Faced with certain impeachment, loss of political support, and mounting criminal indictments for his closest aides, Nixon did the unthinkable. On August 8, 1974, he announced his resignation. The next day he left the presidency, the first U.S. president to do so. His successor, Gerald Ford, would pardon him months later, a controversial act that closed criminal exposure, but not historical judgment. Watergate was not a single crime, but a web, a break-in key to a campaign of political espionage, then a systematic, top-down effort to obstruct justice. It exposed how the machinery of state can be co-opted for political survival, and it showed the power of persistent journalism, institutional checks, and judicial courage. The scandal reshaped modern American politics, seared the word Watergate into the language as shorthand for abuse of power, and left a nation with a harder, more skeptical view of those who govern.
If you enjoyed this journey through history, hit that like button to show some love and subscribe for more deep dives into the most fascinating moments in world history. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you never miss an episode.